worth it. You'll never amount to anything, and you may not, and that's all right. You may not amount to a big old house or whatever you call making or whatever your dream is. Well, you may never make it there. But the truth of the whole matter is you don't really have to have all that. If you die with Jesus in your heart, it don't matter if you sleep in a camper or if you sleep in a mansion up on Eagle's Nest. You can die with peace in your heart. And the journey you took to get down to the last rose of life will be worth every mile you've had to go. I don't know if the devil ever haunts you with your past. I don't even know I don't even want to know what was in your past. But I'm going to let you know you were worth it. Devil, when you're out there all by yourself on the traco and the devil's breaking all this stuff in his mind that God's done forsake him, that the church is going down, that there's no new people coming in, that nobody's got saved in a while, you were worth every trip that Jesus even thought about, even the trip he made to Golgotha and the time he spent in the garden. You were worth every drop of blood. You was worth every trial. You was worth every persecution. Your name alone was worth it. I've seen them die without Jesus. I have. I've been there at the bedside of a lesbian that had done went completely out of her mind. And why they asked me to come up there and pray, I have no idea. Maybe it was for me to see the death of somebody without Jesus and how they die. It was cold. It almost felt pointless to be there. It was cold. Hoses hooked up all over, and her girlfriend sitting right here. And Homer, I tried my best to pray. I tried my best. I didn't even have the word. I didn't even know what to say. I didn't even know exactly who to. I didn't know to talk to her or talk to this one. So I just closed my eyes and prayed and said everything I wanted to say while I was praying. But my Homer, I've only been by one bedside as a person leaving here that was saved and on the way to heaven. And I called out to God, and I said, actually, I didn't call out to God. It was before I got saved. But I sat there on the bedside, and they had told me that whenever a loved one is dying and a loved one's passing away, they'll hold on with everything in them because they feel like you ain't going to make it if they're not there. Hey, it was just me by myself. My cousin was behind me, and my daddy started having trouble breathing. And my cousin went out of the room and went to go get my mama. And thank God he shut the door. But when he shut the door, Homer, what I realized and what I felt that night, I'll never, ever forget. As long as I live and I've got my right mind in my head. I told my daddy, I grabbed him by the hand. I know some of you have probably heard this, so listen to it again. But I grabbed my daddy by the hand, and I looked at him as his eyes was closed, but his looking upward, I guess. His struggling to breathe. And I held his hand, and I said, Daddy, you can go ahead and go. I promise you I've got this. I'll do my best to take care of everybody in the house. And he struggled for several days of breathing. But the last few breaths he took was a breath without any struggle. And I was a lost boy, but I felt something come in that room. On his last breath, there was something that come in that room. My daddy never did live a Christian life in front of me. It took cancer getting him broke down to give his life to God. But I guarantee you that whenever that presence come in the room, Jesus looked down at my daddy, and I believe he said, you were worth it. You didn't raise your children in a Christian home, but you were worth it. You didn't do right like you ought to have done, but you were worth it. And no matter what the devil, whatever mind shape the devil's got you in tonight, you are worth it. Don't let him tell you that you're worthless. Don't let him tell you that he made a mistake in making you the way you were. Don't even believe the lies that he says. That if you'd have done something different, things would be different in your life. But I can tell you, it may have. But you can't beat yourself up about the past. The past is the past. Leave it back there, because if not, it'll destroy you today. I can't do nothing about the life I lived. I'm not going to go into detail, but one day it may come back up in me and my wife's life. All that stuff I did, it may rear its head back up. And if it does, it'll take God to get us through. But I can tell you one thing is for certain. All those nights that I laid in my bed and didn't have no hope. All those nights that I woke up in the morning and felt like I had to look over my shoulder because the life that I was living, every bit of that made it seem like it was worth it. When I went down, I'm not talking about it was worth doing the sin, but you know what I'm talking about. You've got to realize you're lost and realize all that stuff is bad before you can come to the knowledge that Jesus is Christ and accept Him in your life. But it was all worth it when I knelt down in the altar and God took every bit of that away. He took my shame away. He took my sin away. And I woke up the next morning a brand new man. Can you come play something on the piano? Now I'm going to get real personal. I've already explained to you that you was worth it. 28 and a half years on dope, but you was still worth it. Hitler, after killing all them people, if he'd have knelt down and gotten the altar, he'd have been worth it. See, we like to measure things up in our eyes, but it don't look that way to God. Because He came to seek and to save that one that was lost. Go ahead and play when you get some. But I'm going to ask you, you know that you was worth it. Or that it was worth it for Him. But are you living life like it's like He intended for you to live? I know that we'll never be worthy enough, so please don't take it that way. But now, Randy, my Bible has got a whole list of things, a whole guideline of where I need to live and how I need to live and how I should conduct myself as a husband. And babe, I'm sorry, kids, I'm sorry that I'm not the man that I want to be. I'm working on it. Me and God was praying about it today. I'm working on it. Because I want to measure up to that man that God would have me be measured up to. I want to die when I die. I want the last breath on earth that I have, I want God to look at me and say, I feel like He got there. You see, the Bible says that you've been faithful over a few things. And I know the Bible's right. I'm not going to try to twist it up or call it a lie. But I want to be faithful than more than just a few. I want to be faithful for more than just a few. I want the good that I've done and the things that God has had me do and wanted me to do, I want it to weigh out the bad. I want to ask you tonight, are you living life the way that you ought to? Have you got a relationship with Him the way that you ought to? Remember, I told you were worth every trip that He made. You was worth every step that He took to Calvary. You was worth every blood drop that He gave in Gethsemane's garden. But whenever He paid the debt, Homer, I bought things before I thought it was going to be the best thing in the world. Got it and it was junk. It wasn't what it was supposed to be. It wasn't what it was supposed to. It didn't line up to what it was supposed to line up to. So I'm asking you tonight, are you lining up to what you're supposed to line up to? He's done His part, and it's already worth it for His end. But now I want to ask you about your end. How's it look on your end? How much television do you really watch a day without giving Him a thought? How much time do you spend on your phone? I've got one of them phones too. How much time is it you spend on your phone? Are you making it seem like He made a good investment? I want to know that when I'm buying something, my money is going exactly where it needs to go to. That's the reason why people complain when they go out here and they buy a steak and it ain't cooked the way they ought to, the way they said it was, because they're paying good money for what they're getting. And Jesus paid the ultimate price on Calvary. And I'm not saying it's by works, because it's not. But James, I believe it was James, or maybe Peter, knew that there'd be a crowd that come and say, it's not by works, lest any man should boast. But that man looked at him and said, that's all right. You say it's not by works. I'll show you my works. I'll show you faith by my works, is the way that it said. How's it look in your life tonight? When you kneel down and pray and you earnestly try to get a hold of God, He's there. Johnny, have you ever tried to get down and you really needed something and God never be there? Maybe you don't get the answer just right away, but He's there. Now I'm going to ask you, whenever it really gets down and that person at your work needs a good word, are you there? Are you faithful to him the way he's faithful to you? Now, I know the answer is no. But there's one man said, whenever I get down to judgment, I'm not so worried about the things that I did do. I'm more worried about the things that I didn't get to do, that I didn't do. You say, I've been there whenever it said you ought to pray. I hated praying in front of everybody at work. I'm just being honest. Would have big dinners and that asked me to pray over the food and 100, 150. I hate it. I'd show up late every time because I just don't like being in front of everybody. I know I talk a whole lot and you think, well, yeah, it's pretty easy for you. But them people seen God because they seen Him in me. And I'm not boasting. That's their testimony. I think Dale's even talked to one of them. Are you being faithful the way that He wants you to be faithful? Are you praying for your lost loved ones the way that you make it all out in here for us to be, that you're really worried? Are you really praying for them like you ought to? See, a lot of times we paint a lot on our face, but on the inside it's totally different. But Jesus went all the way without any doubt. And Jesus went all the way making it worth it, and not even blinking an eye thinking about it. He went all the way, and it was worth it for Him. And that's all I got tonight, but I want to ask you, I want to leave you with this. When you wake up in the morning, make His investment. Make the price that He paid. Make it worth it. Because there's a lost and dying world out there that needs to see. I mean, the King James Version, you can't go in the Bible stores and hardly find it no more. So if they're going to see the truth, they're going to have to see it in you. Make it worth it tomorrow. When you're faced with opposition from the boss, make it worth it tomorrow whenever you're getting gas or you're driving down the road. Make it worth it because they're watching you. My children are watching you.